Bantam Doubleday Dell Audio Publishing presents The Devil's Workshop. This is Stephen J. Cannell. (1995). The tall Marine captain stood next to his beautiful wife, looking into the open grave. His dress uniform with its brass buttons twinkled in the bright Southern California sunshine. One row of colorful Desert Storm combat ribbons was arranged on his chest, directly under his jump wings. His silver star was a testament to his courage, his gallantry under fire. The minister was talking about the inevitability of death. "God has his plan for all of us," he said. The Marine never took his eyes off the damp hole in the ground. Tall and handsome, he seemed every inch the hero, except for one thing. He couldn't stop crying. His shoulders slumped and quivered. His neck and chest heaved in powerful grief. When the minister was finished, he motioned the young captain to step forward to give the eulogy for his daughter. But Chris Cunningham could not move. He stood with his eyes down, sobbing uncontrollably. "This is very hard," the minister finally said sympathetically. "We certainly all understand." They were about to lower little Kennedy Cunningham into the ground. Her misshapen, tumorous body was at last hidden from the hateful stares of curious strangers. The Marine raised his tear-soaked eyes to the small flower-draped casket which contained his 4.5-year-old daughter. Since Captain Cunningham could not stop crying, his father Richard finally stepped forward and took his place. "Little Kennedy tried," her grandfather said softly. "She fought with all her soul, but some things, as Father Macmillan has said, are just in God's hands from the start. We will never forget her or her courage." Then he took a white carnation off the casket and handed it to his son's wife, Laura. Her eyes, like Chris's, were fixed on the hole that was about to receive their only child. Both knew they would never have another. The funeral reception was at Richard Cunningham's Pasadena mansion. It was a Spanish-style house on 3 beautiful landscaped acres. In the entry, the family had put the best picture they had of Kennedy up on an easel. She had only been 18 months old when it was taken, but already you could see the misshapen swelling. The hemangioma tumors, non-cancerous growths made of tangled blood vessels, had grown in her eyelids and mouth, and in clusters down her throat and spine. They distorted her speech, and in the end made it impossible for her to walk. It was then, when she could no longer move, that Chris Cunningham, the Gulf War hero, the courageous Marine, had disappointed everyone. He started drinking. The doctors at Bethesda Naval Hospital had tried to explain Kennedy's horrible condition, but they could not be absolutely truthful. So they finally said there was no explanation of why Kennedy had been born with this congenital sickness, that God has his own divine plan for each of us. Of course, the doctors at Bethesda knew it had not been God's divine plan that had killed her. They had already seen more than 20 similar cases. Her own father had delivered the ghastly death sentence. The guests wandered down to the pool, where a string quartet played softly. By then, everybody knew the story, mostly because of press coverage about the lawsuit the Cunningham family had filed against the U.S. government. None of that seemed to matter now. Chris Cunningham stayed upstairs in his old bedroom while the mourners arrived. He knew, like the doctors at Bethesda, what really had happened to his daughter. Chris sat on the bed in the room where he had grown up. He had enjoyed victory after victory here. Scholastic All-American, UCLA quarterback, Rose Bowl MVP. He had dragged all the trophies back to this place and examined each honor carefully, searching for hidden meaning. He had been on such a frantic quest for achievement, he had never spent much time looking inward. Now he was afraid to look, afraid of what was missing. Self-pity was not an emotion that suited Chris, but after Kennedy's death it engulfed him. His father knocked on the door and entered uninvited. Richard Cunningham had been Chris's inspiration growing up. a college All-American end at Michigan, and a self-made millionaire. Chris had desperately wanted to please him and to follow in his footsteps. Until Kennedy got sick. After that, everything changed. "Chris, you should come down. It's rude not to at least say hello," his father said. "Laura's down there handling it all by herself. You should go be with her." "I killed her, Dad," Chris said softly. "I killed Kennedy. Nothing's going to change that. I can't face it." Richard didn't know what to do for his son. He kept hoping Laura would find a way to help. She and Chris had dated since high school. She knew him better than anyone, but Richard had noticed that she seemed to look at her husband now with something close to hatred. Chris's drinking was getting steadily worse. His son, whom he had pushed to greatness, who had been a hero first on the football field and then the battlefield, had now chosen the coward's way out. 1999. Wendell Kinney reached out and squeezed Stacy Richardson's hand for luck. "Just remember, take your time," he said. 98% on your written is impressive, so this should be easy. And don't worry about Art. I'll keep him on his chain." It was 8 a.m. Tuesday, and they were in the third-floor hall of the old science building at the University of Southern California, just outside of Dr. Courtney Smith's office. Stacy Richardson was about to take her qualifying oral exam for her doctorate in microbiology. She'd been existing on less than 2 hours sleep a night all through her last review week. The back-breaking job of reviewing 4 years of complicated microbiology was mind-boggling. She'd been on the phone late last night for an hour with her husband Max, who was in Fort Detrick, Maryland. He reminded her of her solid academic track record and promised her she'd be fine. At one point in their conversation, Stacy had sensed from his voice that something was wrong and had asked him about it. After a long, reflective pause, Max had said, "This isn't anything like I'd expected. I don't think I belong here, and I sure as hell don't think they want me." He'd refused to say anything more because he didn't want to distract her. Her orals would determine whether Stacy would end up with a Ph.D. after her name. Dr. Max Richardson was head of the Microbiology Department at USC. Stacy had met him in her first semester. Their romance had caused a furor in the department, but before it had become a full-fledged disaster, they'd gotten married. Legitimizing it, and everything had died down. Max had been working in a new field of microbiology, evaluating killer proteins called prions. His research had won him a 6-month sabbatical to study at the Army Medical Facility at Fort Detrick, Maryland, with Dr. Dexter DeMille, the leading U.S. microbiologist on prion research. With Stacy, just months from her orals, Max had not wanted to be away, especially since Art Hickman, his mortal enemy in the department, was on the panel that would be evaluating her. Max and Art had both been up for the department chair. Max had gotten the job, and Art had been backbiting him ever since. In the end, Stacy and Max had both decided that Max should take the sabbatical. Stacy said that she would just study her brains out so that Art Hickman would not be able to fault her performance. It didn't help Stacy's cause that just about everybody felt she was drop-dead beautiful. Immediately after she enrolled in the doctorate program, Art Hickman had tried to become her mentor. He said he wanted to take her under his wing, but it was soon apparent it wasn't his wing he wanted her under. She had efficiently dodged him. Art had taken it okay until she'd fallen in love with and married his department rival. He'd been lobbing grenades ever since. The door opened and Dr. Courtney Smith was standing in the threshold of her office. "Yep, hope I'm up to it," Stacy replied nervously as she followed Dr. Smith into the small, stuffy office. It was April, but the Santa Anas had been blowing a hot wind across the L.A. basin, driving the temperature up into the mid-80s. "I called maintenance to bring us a fan," Dr. Smith said. "They should be here any minute." "Oh, it's okay, it's fine, Dr. Smith," Stacy said, her heart jackhammering. She told herself to calm down. Now Art Hickman appeared in the doorway, pushing a swivel chair. He was heavy-set, and his blow-dried, comb-over blonde hair tinted a patch of open scalp. "Well, Mrs. Richardson, are we ready?" He grinned wolfishly, using her married name as a slap not lost on any of them. Dr. Horace Rosenthal, a specialist in plant viruses, grabbed a chair and joined the rest of the panel facing Stacy.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?